If your feet tingle late at night, if your hands turn numb without any clear reason, or if you feel a strange burning, stabbing, or electric shock type sensation that no one around you seems able to explain, then stay with me because what comes next may finally help you understand why your nerves are struggling and, more importantly, how to stop the damage before it turns into something you can no longer undo. This isn't a talk about simply managing pain or masking symptoms. This is about protecting the delicate wiring inside your body while you still have the chance to make a difference. So let me start with something direct. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand the single most harmful and common poison silently attacking the nerves of older adults. A poison millions of people come in contact with every single day without realizing it, and one that slowly weakens nerves until they can no longer function. You will also know exactly what increases your risk and what you must change, not eventually, but starting today. I'm Dr. Robert Harrison, and after decades spent treating seniors struggling with nerve pain, numbness, burning sensations in the feet, loss of balance, and the condition many are told they must simply accept, neuropathy, I've seen a pattern that frustrates me deeply. Again and again, people are given explanations that don't match what's really happening in their bodies. They're told it's age, they're told it's genetics, they're told it's just part of getting older, and in many cases, none of that is accurate. So I want to ask you something simple but important. Have you ever felt tingling, numbness, or burning in your hands or feet? And did you know that blood sugar can damage your nerves even if you do not have diabetes at all? Share your answer in the comments because awareness is one of the strongest tools we have in protecting nerves. And once nerve damage crosses a certain line, the opportunity to protect them becomes much smaller. Let me tell you about Frank, one of my patients. He was 68, newly retired, active, and full of plans, but at night his feet burned so intensely that sleep became difficult. During the day, his toes felt strangely numb, and every now and then he felt sudden electrical jolts rushing through his legs. He was told it might be aging, maybe poor circulation, or perhaps nothing serious. But when we looked deeper, we discovered something different. Something he thought was harmless, something he consumed every single day was slowly poisoning his nerves. Once we removed that daily exposure, the damage didn't reverse instantly, but the decline stopped. And stopping the decline changed everything for him. So here is the open loop I want you to hold in your mind as we continue. What was that hidden poison, and how many seniors are unknowingly feeding it into their bodies every single day? To answer that, you must understand something essential about nerves. Nerves are not wires made of metal. They are living, sensitive tissue that depend on oxygen, nutrients, and stable internal chemistry to function properly. Unlike skin or muscle, nerves heal extremely slowly. That means damage doesn't show up quickly. It builds quietly in the background for years. Long before tingling, numbness, or burning ever show up, your nerves may already be under attack. And here is where the truth becomes uncomfortable. The biggest nerve-destroying poison affecting seniors today isn't some industrial chemical, mysterious toxin, or even alcohol alone. It's something far more common, something many seniors are even encouraged to consume. The worst poison causing nerve damage is chronic blood sugar toxicity. And you must understand this clearly. You do not need diabetes for blood sugar to destroy your nerves. All you need are repeated spikes, and millions of seniors experience those spikes daily without knowing. When sugar rises too high, sugar molecules attach themselves to nerve fibers and the tiny blood vessels that feed them, creating inflammation, oxidative stress, and breakdown of the protective outer layer around nerves. When that layer becomes damaged, nerves lose their ability to send accurate signals. That's when tingling starts, then numbness, then burning, then sharp pain, then loss of balance. A common myth is that neuropathy suddenly appears one day. It does not. It develops slowly and quietly while this hidden poison keeps working in the background. Let me ask you something important. Have you ever been told you are borderline diabetic or pre diabetic, or that your blood sugar is slightly high but not serious? That is often where nerve damage begins. Research shows that prediabetes causes nerve damage nearly as often as full diabetes, but most people with prediabetes don't even know they have it. And before I continue, I want to say something very clearly. Many people hear this and respond, but I eat healthy and I believe you. Most of my patients believe that as well. The issue is that the poison is not obvious. It hides inside foods and eating habits that appear healthy. So let's walk through how this poison works. You eat something that spikes your blood sugar. Your body releases insulin to push sugar into cells. Over time, the cells stop responding well to insulin. Sugar stays in the bloodstream longer. Nerves, especially long nerves in your feet and hands, get repeatedly exposed to toxic sugar levels. The tiny blood vessels that supply those nerves become damaged. Oxygen delivery drops. Nerves begin to starve slowly. And because this happens over years, most people don't connect the dots. They assume the symptoms came out of nowhere, when in reality, they have been building for a long time. Here's another open loop to keep in mind. If blood sugar toxicity is so damaging, why don't all seniors with high sugar develop neuropathy? The answer is exposure frequency, exposure duration, and each person's nerve resilience. Some nerves tolerate stress longer than others, but once the damage crosses a certain threshold, symptoms appear and often accelerate quickly. Now let's talk about where this poison comes from in daily life. The first major source is liquid sugar fruit juice, sweetened coffee drinks, sports drinks, and even smoothies that sound healthy but hit your bloodstream too fast. Without fiber to slow absorption, sugar surges quickly and harms nerves. Seniors are often told juice is nutritious, but it is one of the fastest ways to damage nerves. The second major source is refined carbohydrates eaten by themselves: bread, cereal, crackers, rice, pasta, especially when eaten without protein or fat. These foods break down into sugar rapidly. Seniors are often encouraged to eat easy to digest foods, but easy digestion often means rapid sugar release, and that sugar ends up in the bloodstream and on nerve tissue. The third source is constant snacking. When insulin stays elevated all day, nerves never get a chance to recover. They remain inflamed. This is why constant grazing can be harmful. And here's something many people never hear. Some medications can worsen nerve damage by interfering with nutrient absorption, especially B vitamins. Acid blockers, diabetes medications, and cholesterol lowering drugs can deplete B12 over time, weakening the protective nerve coating. Let me share Susan's story. She had numb feet for years. She was told it was aging. But when we tested her nutrient levels, she was severely deficient in B12. The cause was not her diet, it was a medication she had taken faithfully for years. Once corrected, her nerve damage stopped progressing, not reversed but stopped, and that changed her life. Neuropathy rarely comes from a single source. It's usually a combination of sugar toxicity, inflammation, nutrient depletion, and poor circulation. But sugar toxicity is the accelerator. It speeds everything up, and nerves have a limit. Early damage shows up as tingling. Later damage becomes pain, balance problems, falls, and loss of independence. Once nerves die, they are very difficult to regenerate. That's why stopping the poison early is so important. Hear this clearly. Neuropathy is not always reversible, but it is often preventable from getting worse, and that alone can protect your quality of life. Which brings us to the question that begins the next part. If sugar toxicity is the poison, what neutralizes it? What protects nerves? And what must change right now to stop the damage from progressing? If chronic blood sugar toxicity is the poison silently wearing down your nerves day after day, then the natural next question is this: what neutralizes it? What actually protects nerve tissue? And what can you realistically do, not as a doctor or a fitness expert, but as a senior who simply wants less pain, steadier balance, and a future where independence is still possible? Many people expect complicated plans, extreme diets, impossible routines, or expensive treatments. But the truth is far simpler, and that simplicity is exactly why so many overlook it. The first and most important step in protecting your nerves is keeping your blood sugar stable. This does not mean attacking it aggressively or trying to get perfect numbers. Nerves don't demand perfection, they need consistency. Every major spike in blood sugar acts like a tiny chemical burn on nerve tissue, damaging the protective layers and overwhelming the small vessels that keep nerves alive. Reducing the frequency of those spikes slows down or even stops ongoing nerve damage, and that alone can make a life-changing difference. This brings me to the single most important rule I teach seniors with neuropathy, and it's one most people have never heard in their entire lives. Never eat carbohydrates by themselves. Not fruit, not bread, not crackers, not cereal. None of them should ever be eaten alone. When carbohydrates are eaten without any protein or healthy fat, they enter the bloodstream too quickly. Sugar shoots up, insulin spikes, and nerve repair shuts down. But when the same carbohydrate is eaten with protein or fat, absorption slows dramatically, the spike becomes much smaller, and the nerves are protected from the shock. This one rule explains why two people eating nearly identical diets can have completely different nerve health outcomes. One sees rapid deterioration, while the other maintains stability. It isn't always what you eat, it's how you eat it. Let me give you a real example. James, a 74-year-old man, came to me because his legs felt weak by midday. His feet burned at night, and his toes stayed numb throughout the day. He was convinced he was eating clean. His breakfast every morning was a fruit smoothie, banana, mango, juice, yogurt, all blended into a drink he believed was healthy. What he didn't know was that liquid sugar hits the bloodstream so fast that nerves are left unprotected. His smoothie, although nutritious in some ways, was essentially giving his nerves a daily shock. When we removed the smoothie and replaced it with eggs and vegetables for breakfast, and moved a small amount of fruit later into the day to be eaten after a meal, everything changed. Within a few weeks, his nerve pain decreased, his balance improved, and his energy lasted longer. There was no miracle. We simply stopped poisoning his nerves. The second major step in protecting nerves is eliminating liquid sugar entirely. No juice, no sweetened drinks, no smoothies, even if they claim to be natural or healthy. Juice without fiber is just concentrated sugar that rushes into the bloodstream. Fiber is what slows absorption and protects nerves, and when it's removed, sugar hits hard. Many seniors drink juice because it feels gentle or because it has been recommended for years, but for nerve health, it is one of the most damaging options. If you want fruit, eat it whole in small portions and never on an empty stomach. Fruit eaten after a meal is far safer than fruit eaten as a snack. This single adjustment dramatically reduces nerve irritation for many people. The third step is nutritional protection, and this part is often misunderstood. Nerves require specific nutrients to stay strong and function properly, and one of the most important is vitamin B12. B12 supports the protective coating around nerves, called myelin. Without enough B12, nerves become exposed, fragile, and prone to misfiring. Many seniors are deficient in B12 without ever being told, especially those taking acid blockers, certain diabetes medications, or cholesterol drugs. But B12 isn't the only nutrient nerves depend on. Magnesium helps nerve signaling and reduces twitching or cramping. Folate works closely with B12 to protect nerve tissue. Alpha lipoic acid, a powerful antioxidant, helps lower oxidative stress and may improve symptoms in some people. These nutrients don't cure neuropathy, but they help stabilize nerves and slow down further damage. However, here's a warning many people never hear: more is not always better. High doses of certain vitamins, especially B6, can actually worsen nerve damage if taken incorrectly. That's why proper testing matters. Guessing can be dangerous. The fourth step is reducing chronic inflammation. Inflammation makes nerves overly sensitive and amplifies pain signals. It can turn mild tingling into burning pain or stabbing sensations. Processed foods, refined seed oils, and high sugar intake all fuel inflammation. But foods like fatty fish, olive oil, vegetables, and spices such as turmeric can calm it down. When inflammation drops, nerves become quieter and symptoms often ease. The fifth step is movement, though not in the way most people imagine. You do not need intense workouts to protect nerves. In fact, tough exercise can make symptoms worse. What nerves need is gentle circulation. Light walking, especially after meals, helps regulate blood sugar and improves blood flow to nerve tissue. Even a simple 10-minute walk can make a measurable difference. Movement, when done correctly, becomes a form of medicine. This is the moment where many seniors feel discouraged because they've heard nerves heal slowly. And that is true. Nerve regeneration is extremely slow and sometimes doesn't happen at all. But stopping damage is just as powerful as reversing it. Reduced pain, better sleep, improved balance, fewer falls, these improvements matter. A common harmful belief is that nothing can be done. That belief itself becomes a barrier to recovery. I've seen people lose hope too early and decline quickly because the underlying poison was never removed. Let me share another story. A woman in her early 72nds came to me walking with a cane. She felt unsteady and was afraid of falling. She had been told her neuropathy was permanent. But when we stabilized her blood sugar, restored her nutrient levels, and removed liquid sugar from her diet, her pain decreased enough that she no longer felt afraid to walk short distances. She wasn't cured, but she regained confidence, and that changed her life. This leads to something crucial. Neuropathy is not only about pain, it's about independence. It's about trusting your feet, feeling the ground beneath you, and reacting quickly when needed. When neuropathy advances too far, the risk of falling rises dramatically, and falls are one of the greatest threats to a senior's long-term health. That's why early action matters so much. Tingling and mild numbness aren't random, they are early warnings, signals that something needs to change now, not later. So here's a simple, practical plan for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Remove liquid sugar from your diet completely. Pair every carbohydrate with protein or healthy fat. Eat fruit only after meals and in small amounts. Walk for 10 minutes after eating whenever you can. And if you haven't checked your B12 levels, ask for that test. Don't change medications on your own, but be aware of how they may affect your nutrient levels. Pay close attention to what happens. Many seniors notice less burning at night, better sleep, and improved balance. Even small improvements matter. They show that the damage is not beyond help. And here is something I want you to remember clearly. Anyone promising a miracle cure for neuropathy is not telling the truth, but anyone saying nothing can be done is also wrong. Most improvement happens in the space between those two extremes. Neuropathy develops over years, quietly and gradually, so it makes sense that healing requires time and patience. But removing the poison is always the first step. Now that you understand how blood sugar toxicity attacks the nerves and accelerates neuropathy, the next step is learning how to identify the hidden spikes happening inside your body. Every single day, spikes. Most seniors never realize are harming them. These spikes often come from foods people believe are harmless, routines they've followed for years, or snacks they eat out of habit rather than hunger. And because the damage builds slowly, the connection between the food and the symptoms is easy to miss. This is why the very first thing I teach my patients is to pay attention to how their body feels after eating certain foods. Tingling, burning, heaviness in the legs, or an afternoon energy crash can all be signs that your nerves are reacting to blood sugar swings. Many seniors think these sensations are just part of aging, but once they learn to track these signals, patterns become very clear. The most reliable way to catch these hidden spikes is to observe what happens in the hours after meals. For example, if you eat a bowl of cereal or toast for breakfast and feel a wave of fatigue or leg discomfort by late morning, that's a sign. If you have pasta, rice, or bread at lunch and feel numbness or burning later in the afternoon, that's a sign. If your feet burn more intensely at night after an evening dessert or fruit eaten by itself, that's a sign. Your nerves react to sugar long before your doctor may see it on a lab test. That means your symptoms may appear before your blood work shows anything dramatic. Your nerves are often the earliest warning system, giving you messages your body desperately wants you to notice. This brings us to the single eating rule that protects nerve health more effectively than almost anything else. Balance every carbohydrate with protein or healthy fat. Your nerves depend on stable internal chemistry to function. When sugar hits too quickly, nerves struggle. But when food enters the bloodstream slowly and evenly, nerves stay calmer, inflammation reduces, and the tiny vessels that feed them are under less strain. This one adjustment can reduce daily nerve irritation more than many medications because it addresses the root cause instead of just numbing the symptoms. Seniors who follow this rule often report fewer nighttime burning sensations, more stable energy throughout the day, and steadier legs when walking. Another crucial step in protecting nerves is understanding which nutrients they desperately need after age 60. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at absorbing certain vitamins and minerals, especially those needed for nerve repair. Vitamin B12 is at the top of this list. Without enough B12, nerves lose their insulation, signals slow down, and misfires become more frequent. Magnesium is another key player, supporting muscle relaxation, nerve communication, and overall nerve stability. Folate works hand in hand with B12 to maintain nerve integrity, while alpha lipoic acid reduces oxidative damage and may ease nerve discomfort for some people. These nutrients won't magically regenerate damaged nerves, but they can protect the nerves you still have and slow the progression of neuropathy significantly. However, this is where caution matters. Supplementing without guidance can be risky. For example, excessive B6 can damage nerves even in healthy adults, which is why testing and proper supervision are essential. Now let's talk about inflammation, the silent amplifier of nerve pain. Chronic inflammation makes nerves more reactive, turning mild irritation into intense burning or aching. Inflammation also makes balance harder, as it interferes with the signals your brain relies on to know where your feet are. Highly processed foods, sugary snacks, and fried items all fuel inflammation and worsen nerve sensitivity. On the other hand, certain foods can help calm the body. Fatty fish rich in omega 3, olive oil, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and spices like turmeric can support nerve comfort by reducing inflammatory stress. Even small dietary shifts in this direction can make a noticeable difference over time, especially for seniors. Movement plays another essential role in nerve protection. Many people assume they need strenuous exercise, but the truth is the opposite. Intense workouts can overwhelm fragile nerves and worsen symptoms. What nerves need most is blood flow. Gentle walking, particularly after meals, supports circulation, helps stabilize blood sugar, and delivers oxygen to nerve tissue. Even a slow 10-minute walk after each meal can have powerful effects. I've seen patients who, after adopting this simple habit, report reduced nighttime pain and improved balance within weeks. Movement becomes medicine when approached correctly. But here's something important. Nerve healing is slow, very slow, and many seniors feel discouraged when they hear this. But preventing further damage is just as important as reversing it. Maintaining the ability to walk safely, reducing pain enough to sleep better, or lowering the risk of falls, all of these improvements matter. One of the most damaging beliefs seniors are told is that nothing can be done. I've witnessed patients give up because they were told the damage was permanent. But when blood sugar spikes are reduced, nutrient gaps corrected, and inflammation decreased, the progression slows and life improves. Let me tell you about another patient who illustrates this well. She was in her early 72nds and terrified of falling. Her doctors told her the nerve damage was irreversible and she would simply have to adapt. But after removing liquid sugar, stabilizing her meals, and correcting her deficiencies, her symptoms reduced enough for her to walk short distances without fear. She wasn't cured, but she regained control, and that changed her entire outlook. Neuropathy is not only about pain, it's about confidence, balance, independence, feeling the ground under your feet. When nerves lose their function, the risk of falls rises sharply, and falls are one of the greatest threats to senior health. This is why early symptoms like tingling and mild numbness must be taken seriously. They are not random, they are warnings, and warnings give you time to act. For the next 2 to 4 weeks, I recommend a simple, practical plan. Remove liquid sugar completely. Pair every carbohydrate with protein or fat. Save fruit for after meals and eat it in small portions. Walk for 10 minutes after eating whenever possible, and check your B12 levels if you haven't already. Do not change your medications on your own, but do understand how they might affect your nutrient stores. Watch your symptoms closely. Many seniors notice less burning at night, fewer sudden shocks of nerve pain, and better balance. Even small changes show that the damage is not yet permanent. And here is the truth. I want you to hold firmly. Anyone offering a miracle cure for neuropathy isn't being honest, but anyone saying nothing can be done is equally wrong. Neuropathy usually develops over years, quietly and gradually, so it makes sense that improvement takes time. But removing the poison is always the first step, and once you stop the progression, you open the door for real, steady improvement, even if slow.